With us now, MS Now's Jackie Alemany, co-host of The Weekend, and former federal prosecutor Barrett Burger. Barrett, it's great to have you here. We were talking, first of all, how you can tell who the lawyers are on the committee. You came in and asked if one of the members was a prosecutor. Indeed, she has been a prosecutor. But he also has not talked a lot. A lot of the answers were short. I wonder if you think that's part of a strategy, if that's how a lot of prosecutors are. You never give more than you have to. What do you think is going on here?
I mean, I think you're exactly right. I think this is part of a strategy. Jack Smith has clearly been very well prepared for his testimony here. And like any good lawyer, he's trying to say as little as possible while getting across his point. And I think there's a few reasons behind that. One, he's already put so much of this out there in the public reports detailing his investigations. And number two, anything he says publicly now carries the risk not only that will be misinterpreted by people in the media, but potentially scrutinized surgically by some of the administration's people that might be wanting to go after him, that might want an excuse to take anything that he says, misconstrue it, find something that they could hang their hats on to potentially hang him up. So I think he is being very careful. I really enjoy listening to him speak so much like the federal prosecutor that I know and that he has been. Everything he says, there is a focus on the evidence. If you listen to him, it's, well, we followed where the evidence was leading us. Well, the evidence showed. Well, the evidence we gathered. And that's how prosecutors talk. It isn't, I wanted to bring this case because of this. It's, this is what the evidence showed. The evidence led us to these charging decisions. The evidence led us to this conclusion. That is a very standard way that prosecutors talk because the focus isn't on us. It's not on, what we as a lawyer want, what we as a prosecutor desire. It's what the evidence shows.
But
that's how he's testified.
Are you surprised he isn't detailing that evidence more?
I'm not, because he already has. I mean, he's made these, reports. He's been very detailed, although we've only seen one of the two reports that he's put out. One is still classified now or under seal now. So he's already said so much publicly. I think, he's probably being very careful. This, to some extent, his testimony does not really seem about him as much as it is somewhat of a stage for, some of the representatives to make their political statements.
And Jackie, that may be very prosecutorial, but we can't ignore the fact that this is political theater. And as political theater, one has to wonder if it's working.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to ping as many people as possible who are in the room right now or working on this hearing in some capacity to get a sense of how people think it's going. I had one person say essentially that what was coming from some Republican lawmakers, this is a Republican, mind you, who called it a little bit embarrassing. But I also heard from Democrats who have expressed some frustrations that everyone is pivoting away from getting in the weeds on what Jack Smith has found, and that is what Democrats wanted to pull out of him a little bit more, but have been struggling to do. But back to your point, it's really notable that at the top of mind for Jack Smith's legal team, and presumably Jack Smith, is this idea that this hearing is a trap. I was kind of waved off of that from some people yesterday who've been involved with the hearing, but I do think it's impossible to ignore when you look at the track record of what this DOJ has done and who they've gone after. It is their playbook to try to go after their political enemies for contempt of Congress or obstruction or lying to Congress. And again, his legal advisors told reporters on a call yesterday that there are a number of theories that have changed Republicans' mind to go forward with this hearing. One of those theories is that this is part of a trap to get him, more specifically, to violate Judge Cannon's order with regards to that second report. But it seems like that's sort of seeping into the January 6th strategy here as well.
Yeah, his team, his legal team, Jack Smith's legal team, had said to me, when I asked what are the stakes for Jack Smith at this hearing, they said, they don't want to overstate it, but that he is going in there knowing that any misstep could potentially be used by the Trump DOJ to bring a prosecution against him. We know the president in the past has suggested Jack Smith should be prosecuted. And in fact, we're just getting the first reaction to his testimony today from President Trump writing in a social media post, quote, deranged Jack Smith is being decimated before Congress. As always, it's a long post. And so then I'm going to jump to where he calls Jack Smith a deranged animal, says he shouldn't be allowed to practice law, and, quote, hopefully the attorney general is looking at what he's done. The whole thing was a Democrat scam. A big price should be paid by them. There's the full tweet or post. Keep it up, guys, so folks at home can read that. But when he says, hopefully the attorney general is looking at what he's done, Barrett, was that a call to action? Is that how you read it?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who doubts that, you know, as you were saying, that this potentially could be a trap, all you have to do is look at that language to know exactly how at least the president is thinking about this. He's thinking about this as an opportunity. What else would the attorney general be looking at, particularly with respect to Jack Smith's testimony, if not trying to take it apart to find things that he's saying that may be, you know, the basis for a charge that she could bring? I will say Jack Smith is being very restrained in his answers. He's being very lawyerly. If you notice, a lot of his responses are, you know, to the best of my recollection, as I recall, this is what the evidence was showing us. And I have to imagine at least some of that language is being used as, you know, potential coverage for this.
Harry Dunn, you can see here, is had pulled Michael Fanone away from someone. We don't know what's going on. There are 4 officers who were at the Capitol that day who were injured and who have become, in many ways, advocates for the rule of law, for protecting the Capitol. Not sure what the applause there is. We have folks, though, who are at the Capitol, obviously, and if it's something significant, we'll go back to it. In the meantime, I want to bring in Mary McCord, MS Now legal analyst and former acting assistant attorney general for national security at the U.S. Department of Justice. And Mary, I have to ask you, I'm going to put 2 things together. During his deposition, Jack Smith was asked this: do you feel like you have a target on your back? I believe that President Trump wants to see retribution against me because of my role as special counsel. Then, would you be surprised if President Trump directs the DOJ to indict you? No. Now you have the Truth Social that Anna just read that ends with a big price should be paid by them for what they have put our country through. In other words, the crooked and corrupt people he sees who have been going after him. I wonder, given your background and experience, how you interpret that, what you make of it, and frankly, how it makes you feel.
Well, this sounds a lot like the Truth Social post that President Trump put out when he wanted the Department of Justice to go after James Comey and Letitia James. And he basically said, you know, Pam, right? Pam, I need you to do this. And then he appointed Lindsay Halligan, or he had her appoint Lindsay Halligan, who has now been, you know, disqualified and withdrawn from being the U.S. attorney in the Eastern Virginia, who promptly went in and within days sought and obtained an indictment against one of Trump's political enemies. So this Truth Social post reads to me remarkably similar to that other one. And I don't think that means it has to be that they would try to bring some sort of prosecution based on the trap that you all have been discussing. I agree that this is something of a trap. Can we catch him in anything that we could say arguably is a false statement, anything inconsistent with what he even said in his deposition that we could try to use? But they could also be thinking of other theories that we've heard coming out of the grand jury investigation in Southern District of Florida about some sort of conspiracy to deprive Donald Trump of his civil rights. So this is a directive to Pam Bondi, and I think that's the way she will be seeing it.
And we're keeping our eye on that hearing room for when they reconvene. But quickly, if we can get this one in, Mary, there was a moment that stood out because Jack Smith emphasized that he really believed they had proof beyond a reasonable doubt that they could convict President Trump if this was brought to trial. He was asked if, you know, either of these cases could be re-prosecuted a second time once Trump leaves office. Let's look at that exchange.
Those indictments have been dismissed. Can they be re-brought or resurrected after Trump leaves office?
They were dismissed without prejudice.
So they can be refiled? And he can be prosecuted after he leaves office. Is that correct?
I'm not going to speak to that. I can only speak to what we did, which was dismiss the case without prejudice.
Mary, do you see a re-prosecution ever happening?
Well, there's the, is it legally possible? And, Jack Smith's answer that these were dismissals without prejudice is accurate. And that would mean it could be legally possible, assuming you could get past statute of limitation issues based on some sort of tolling argument that while Mr. Trump was president, he couldn't be prosecuted. The practical reality, though, I think is unlikely. But, we have 3 more years ahead of us, and it's hard, and we'll have to wait and see. Like Jack Smith, I can't speculate.